Hello, everybody. Today we'll be reading the foreword to first edition, foreword to the second edition, and the foreword to third edition, and foreword to the fourth edition. Then tomorrow we get into the doctor's opinion. Tomorrow, out of the AA book. Large print, and if you have a small print one, same wording is in the book too, so you're good. Forward to the first edition. This is the forward as it appeared in the first printing of the first edition in 1939. 87 years. AA been in business 87 years. We of Alcoholic Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body to show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered. Is the main purpose of this book. For them, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authorization will be necessary. We think this account of our experience will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. Many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person, and besides, we are sure that our way of living has its advantages for all. Yes, it does. It is important that we remain anonymous because we are too few at present to handle the overwhelming number of personal appeals which may result from its publication. Being mostly business or professional folk, we could not well carry on our obfuscation in such an event. We would like get understood that our alcoholic work is in a vacation. When writing or speaking publicly about alcoholism, we urge each of our fellowship to opt his personal name, designating himself instead as a member of Alcoholic Anonymous. Very earnestly, we ask the press also to observe this request, for otherwise we shall be greatly handicapped you know what I'm trying to say. Handicap. We are not an organization in a conventional sense of word. I'm sorry, not world, word. There are no fees or dues whatsoever. The only requirement for membership is an honest desire to stop drinking. We are not allied with any particular faith, sect, or denomination, nor do we oppose anyone. We simply wish to be helpful to those who are afflicted. We shall be interested to hear from those who are getting results from this book, particularly from those who are commenced work with other alcoholics. We should like to be helpful to each cases in inquiry by scientific, medical, and religious societies will be welcome. Alcoholic Anonymous. Now I'm moving forward to the foreword to second edition. Figured given in this foreword describe the fellowship as it was in 1955. Since the original foreword to this book was written in 1939, a wholesale miracle has taken place. Our earlier printing voiced the hope that every alcoholic who journeys will find the fellowship of Alcoholic Anonymous as his destination. Already continues the early text 2 and 3s and 5s of us have sprung up in other communities. 16 others have elapsed between our first printing of this book and the presentation in 1955 of our second edition. In that brief space, Alcoholic Anonymous has mushroomed into nearly 6,000 groups whose membership is far above 150,000 recovered alcoholics groups are to be found in each of the United States of all of the provinces of Canada. AA has flourishing communities in the British Isles, the Scandinavian countries, South Africa, South America, Mexico, Alaska, Australia, and Hawaii. All told, promising beginnings have been made in some 50 foreign countries and U.S. projections. Some are just now taking shape in Asia. Many of our friends encourage us by saying that this is but a beginning, only the augury of a much larger future ahead. The spark that was to flare into the first AA group was struck in Akron, Ohio in June 1935 during a talk between a New York stockbroker and an Akron magician. 6 months earlier, the broker had been relieved of his drink obsession by a sudden spiritual experience following a meeting with an alcoholic friend who had been in contact with the Oxford groups of that day. We had also been greatly helped by the late Dr. William D. Silkworth. We'll know about him later in the book, about the doctor's opinion. I'll read that tomorrow. A New York specialist in alcoholism, who is now accounted no less than a miracle saint by AA members, in whose story of the early days of our society appears in the 6 pages. From this doctor, the broker had learned the grave nature of alcoholism. Though he could not accept all the tenets of the Oxford groups, he was convinced of the need for moral inventory, confession of personality defects, restitution of those harmed, hopefulness to others, and the necessity of belief in and dependence upon God. Prior to his journey to Akron, the broker had worked hard with many alcoholics on the theory that only an alcoholic could help an alcoholic, but he had succeeded only in keeping sober himself. The broker had gone to Akron on a business venture which had collapsed, leaving him greatly in fear that he might start drinking again. He suddenly realized that in order to save himself, he must carry his message to another alcoholic. That alcoholic turned out to be the Akron physician. This physician had repeatedly tried spiritual means to resolve his alcoholic dilemma, but have failed. But when the broker gave him Dr. Silkworth's description of alcoholism, I don't know why I keep getting that word wrong, and its hopelessness, the physician began to pursue the spiritual remedy for this malady with a willingness he had never before been able to muster. He sobered never to drink again to the moment of his death in 1950. This seemed to prove that one alcoholic could affect another as no non-alcoholic could. It also indicated that strenuous work one alcoholic with another was vital to permanent recovery. Hence, the 2 men set to work almost eventually upon alcoholics arriving in the ward of the Akron City Hospital. The very first case, a desperate one, recovered immediately and became AA number 3. He never had another drink. This work at Akron continued through the summer of 1935. There were many failures, but there was an occasional heartening success. When the broker returned to New York in the fall of 1935, the first AA group has actually been formed, through no one realized at the time. A second small group promptly took shape at New York, to be followed in 1937 with the start of a third at Cleveland. Besides these, there were scattered alcoholics who had picked up the basic ideas in Akron or New York, who were trying to form groups in other cities. By late 1937, the number of members having substantial sobriety time behind them was sufficient to convince the membership that a new light had entered the dark world of the alcoholic. It was now time the struggling groups thought to place the message to an unique experience before the world. This determination bore fruit in the spring of 1939. By the population of this volume, the membership had been reached about 100 men and women. The fledgling society, which had been nameless, now began to be called Alcoholics Anonymous, from the title of its own book. The flying blind period ended, and AA entered a new phase of its pioneering time. With the appearance of the new book, a great deal began to happen. Dr. Harry Hamilton Fosdick, the noted clergyman, reviewed it with approval in the fall of 1939. Fulton Horster, then editor of Liberty, printed a piece in his magazine called Alcoholics and God. This brought This brought a rush of 800 frantic inquiries into the little New York office, which meanwhile had been established. Each inquiry was painstakingly answered. Pamphlets and books were sent out. Businessmen traveling out of existing groups were referred to these prospective newcomers. New groups started up, and it was found to the establishment of everyone that AA's message could be transmitted in the mail as well as by word of mouth. By the end of 1939, it was established that 800 alcoholics were on their way to recovery. In the spring of 1940, John D. Rockefeller Jr. gave a dinner for many of his friends, to which he invited AA members to tell their stories. News of this got on the world. Wires, inquiries, inquiries poured in again, and many people went to the bookstores to get the book. Alcoholics Anonymous. By March 1941, the membership had shot up to 2,000. Then Jack Alexander wrote a future article in the Saturday Evening Post and placed such a compelling picture of AA before the general public that alcoholics in need of help really deluged us. By the close of 1941, AA numbered 8,000 members. The mushrooming process was in full swing. AA had become a natural institution. Our society then entered a fearsome and exciting opposite period. The test that it faced was this: could these large numbers of erstwhile erratic alcoholics successfully meet and work together? Would there be quarrels over membership, leadership, and money? Would there be strivings for power and prestige? Would there be success which would split AA apart? Soon AA was beset by these very problems on every side in every group, but out of the frightening and at first disturbing excellence, the conviction grew that AAs had to hang together or die separately. We had to unify our membership or pass off the scene. As we discovered the principles by which the individual alcoholic could live, so we had to involve principles by which the AA groups and AA as a whole could survive and function effectively. It was taught that no alcoholic, man or woman, could be excluded from our society, that our leaders might serve but never govern, that each group was to be autonomous, and there was to be no professional class of therapy. There were to be no fees or dues. Our expenses were to be met by our own voluntary contributions. There was to be the least possible organization, even in our service centers. Our public relations were to be based upon traction rather than promotion. It was decided that all members ought to be anonymous at the level of press, radio, TV, and films. In no circumstances should we give endorsement, make alliance, or enter public controversies. This was the substance of AA's 12 traditions, which restated in full on page 561 of this book. Through none of the principles had the force of rules or laws. They have become so widely accepted by 1950 that they were confirmed by our first international conference held at Cleveland. Today, the remarkable unity of AA is one of the greatest assets that our society has, while the internal difficulties of our abstinent period will be an ironed out. Public acceptance of AA grew by leaps and bounds. For this, there were two principal reasons: the large number of recoveries and reunited homes. These made their impressions everywhere. Our alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapses, and among the remainder of those who stayed on with AA saw improvement. Other thousands came to a few AA meetings and at first decided they didn't want the program, but great numbers of these, about 2 out of 3, began to return as time passed. Another reason for the whole acceptance of AA was the ministration of friends in medicine, religion, and the press, together with innumerable others who became our able and persistent advocates. Without such support, AA could have made only the slowest progress. Some of the recommendations of AA's early medical and religious friends will be found further on in this book. Alcoholics Anonymous is not a religious organization. Neither does AA take any particular medical point of view. Through we cooperate widely with the men of medicine as well as with the men of religion. Alcohol being no respecter of persons, we are an accurate cross section of America, and in distant lands the same democratic evening up process is now going on. By personal religious affiliation, we include Catholics, Protestant Jews, Hindus, and a sprinkling of Muslims and Buddhists. More than 50% of us are women. At present, our membership is pyramiding at the rate of about 20% a year. so far upon the total problem of several million actual potential alcoholics in the world, we have made only a scratch. In all probability, we shall never be able to touch more than a fair fraction of the alcohol problem in all its ramifications. Upon therapy for the alcoholic himself, we surely have no monopoly, yet it is great hope that all those who has yet found no answer may begin to find one in the pages of this book, and will presently join us on the high road to a new freedom. Now this is called Foreword to Third Edition. By March 1976, when this edition went to the printer, the total worldwide membership of Alcoholics Anonymous was conservatively estimated at more than 1 million, with almost 28,000 groups meetings in over 90 countries. Surveys of groups in the United States and Canada indicate that AA is reaching out not only to more and more people, but to a wider and wider range. Women now make up more than 1/4 of the membership. Among newer members, the proportion is nearly 1/3. 7% of AA surveyed as less than 30 years of age. Among them, many of the teens. The basic principles of AA program, it appears, hold good for individuals within many different lifestyles, just as the program has brought recovery to those of many different nationalities. The 12 steps that summarize the program may be called Los Dos Presos. In